Hello and yes, welcome to another album review with me, Rockboy680. So, I'm going to be going back and be doing another album by the one and only Mr. Paul McCartney. I haven't done a Paul McCartney album in a while, and I really wanted to come back and do a Paul McCartney album because, you know, he's my favourite, and I know a lot of people who visit my channel really like him, because, you know, my channel, when I started doing a lot of Beatles stuff, so a lot of my, you know, I know that the majority of people who follow my channel are big Beatles fans, so I wanted to come back and do a Paul McCartney album. Haven't done one in a while. I think the last one I done was Chaos from Creation and Off the Ground, kind of at the same time. That was a good 3-4 months back. So, last McCartney albums I done were, well, Chaos from Creation is recent, Off the Ground. I suppose some people class it as his later out or his more recent albums. It's quite old now, but it's amongst them rare vinyl releases. So I wanted to do one of his older albums, so and I wanted to do one from the 80s because I think I've only reviewed Press to Play from the 80s. So I wanted to do Pipes of Peace. So yeah, we're just going to do the usual in this video. I'm going to give you a bit of information about the album. We're going to go over each track individually. I'll show you my copy of the vinyl record, and then we're going to give it a mark out of 10. So anyway, Paul McCartney's Pipes of Peace. This was his 4th studio album. If you're just going by McCartney, McCartney 2 and Tug of War. If you're going to include the Paul and Linda McCartney album, Ram, and the Wings stuff, it's his 11th studio album. So this was released on the 31st of October 1983. And chart positions didn't do too bad over here in the UK, US. Didn't do too well. Got number 4 over here in the UK, which I think is a good spot for this. I'm not sure if it's worthy of a number 1 spot, this album. Depends what other albums are out. It came out when this one came out, of course. Look at my hair, all sticking out around there. Anyway, getting off track. So, you know, it depends what albums are out at the same time, you know, which ones were coming out. But anyway, I think 4, that's a good place for this album. 15 in the US. Come on, guys, that's a little bit too low, don't you think? I mean, it's Paul McCartney. I know it's not one of his best albums, but it is still that man there. It is still Paul. Anyway, so basically the tracks on this album are kind of leftovers from Tug of War. So he had this huge success with Tug of War. You know, the album just destroyed. It done so well. And Paul kind of really wanted to recreate the formula which he used for that album. So he took the leftover songs. Not all of these were leftovers, but I know some of them were, like The Other Me, Keep Undercover, Sweetest Little Show. You know, these were all written around the same time as the Tug of War tracks. So he's taken a lot of tracks which he ripped from those sessions. He's got a few new ones here. He's recorded them all with the same formula. He has brought George Martin back to produce this album. And George Martin is a great producer, and everything that I've heard from George Martin really is great. You know, I mean, of course the Beatles stuff, but the other work he's done as well is also really good. And then, of course, you know, he also brings in another famous musician to do a duet with. On Tug of War, he done a duet with Stevie Wonder on What's That You're Doing and Ebony and Ivory. And I love Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder is one of the most talented guys on the planet. No doubt about it in my mind. This album, he decides to bring in Michael Jackson. Okay, I know that there's a lot of Michael Jackson fans out there because he has the biggest selling album of all time, fair dues, Thriller. I myself am not a Jackson fan. I don't mind the Jackson 4, I don't mind some of Michael Jackson's really early stuff, but I'm just not a fan of the guy. I'm just being honest, you know. So anyway, here we go, let's get started on the tracks. We're 4 minutes in, we ain't even started on the tracks. Come on, let's get with it. Okay, so it opens with the title track, Pipes of Peace. So it opens up with kind of like a violin, weird sounding, I don't know, it kind of sounds a bit proggy, kind of sounds a bit like how Pink Floyd would start their albums. On the single release of this song, it doesn't start with that, of course. It goes straight in with the piano, which of course comes in about 20 seconds on this album, and the strange sounds stop. And of course, Paul starts singing. And it's just a great song. I really like it. It kind of reminds me of Band on the Run in a way, because it like goes through like 3 stages before it finally gets to the chorus, where he starts singing about, you know, we learn to play the Pipes of Peace. A bit like on Band on the Run. It takes him like 3 stages to get to the bit where he sings, you know, Band on the Run. So it kind of reminds me of that song. Obviously not as good as Band on the Run, but the lyrics are good. The music video is great. Of course, it's taken from World War One, when the British soldiers were going across into Germany, cutting across France into Germany. And then on Christmas Day, they all said, you know, sod it. Let's just play football, you know, Christmas Day, let's not kill each other, let's take a day off. So the music video is about that, and Paul plays all the soldiers, and it is a really good music video. And it kind of captures the lyrics a bit. The lyrics do kind of reflect on this, you know, learn to play the pipes of peace, you know, instead of burn, baby, burn, you know. It's a great theme for the song on the music video, I think, so they've done a great job with it. Really good song. I know some people find it a bit cheesy, but it's the 80s, everything was cheesy. So, I mean, it's a good song, I think it's good. Next track up is the smash, massive hit, #1 song with Michael Jackson, Say, Say, Say. And I'm going to try and put myself in an unbiased position here, because I'm not a fan of Michael Jackson, so I could really easily go, Paul, you were amazing, Jackson, you were crap. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put myself in the shoes of someone who doesn't mind Jackson and doesn't mind McCartney. I kind of put myself in the shoes of someone who likes them both equally. And it is a really good song, really. The lyrics are fun, they're a bit silly in places, but the lyrics are silly on this whole album, really. Vocal performance from both of them is great. Paul, really, really good. The crossing between singers is great. Paul has some great lines, and Jackson comes in with a chorus. The balance of vocals here is so good, because there's a track coming up later on called The Man, which just does not do this at all. So the balance between vocals is really good. They each get great, you know, blending with singing. Linda comes in with some great vocals, which of course was Jackson's idea, because I remember watching a documentary about the song, and Jackson was like, how do you make them high notes on some of them old albums? And Paul's like, well, that was Linda, you know. So they brought in Linda to do a few backing vocals on this song, and she pulls it off great. The music video to this is amazing. Another great music video you've got to check out. It's a really good song. If you're not a fan of Jackson like me, I've got to cut it back and say it's okay, because I'm just not a fan of Jackson. But it is a really good song. So, okay, so then we're on to the next track, The Other Me. So, come straight in with the vocals. Boom, the song starts and there's Paul singing. Okay, so let's just get this straight. The lyrics on this album are just silly. They really are. There's only 1 or 2 tracks on here where the lyrics are like good. And they aren't bad. They're just silly. But, you know, who am I to talk about that? Because I can't write a song to save my life. You know, these are still very well written songs. Just for Paul's standards, they're not as good as what they could be. You know, they're good songs. They are very good lyric songs. But compared to what Paul has done and what he will do, it's not one of his best, you know, efforts. But anyway, quite a catchy number, really. The Other Me, you know, it's kind of good. He's singing about, you know, he's been a fool. Really wish that you could have seen the other me, the other side of me. It's a bit like the fun side of me instead of seeing the bitchy, miserable side of me. Something like that, you know. Really, really fun song, really. Then we get the next track, Keep Undercover. So I love the violins in this song. Oh my god. It's just so cool. This track I actually really, really like for one reason. The chorus. How the violins kick in and have their solos. Do, 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 do. And then Paul comes in and he's shouting down this mic like, hope I'm gonna pick you up, hope I'm gonna take you home. You know, he's singing that line. You guys know what I'm talking about. I can't sing it, but he's screaming it down the mic and it sounds so good. And then I love how the song ends. It's like this weird little kind of thing on the piano, on the keyboard going dunk, 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 dunk. It really is a decent song. I think it is a seriously overlooked one. Very fun. The lyrics, of course, a little bit silly, but they're not that bad, really. Violin solos on this are amazing. Vocal performance from Paul, great. So then we close side 1 with a track called So Bad. Not a big fan of Paul when he does his high setos, you know. What track is it on London Town? Because I mean, I remember when I reviewed London Town. There's a track on here where he does his high setos, and I'm Carrying. And I don't mind that track. It's okay. But when I said that in my video, it seems like a lot of Paul fans really love that song. So I was kind of alone there, saying I'm not a big fan of that one. I mean, I like it, just not a big fan. But I do love this track. So Bad is amazing, brilliant. The best thing about this song for me, though, is the bass. The bass guitar work here is amazing. Sounds so good. You can easily tell it's Ringo on drums, you know. You know, Ringo's there just doing his thing, being silly. Just great. It's a great song. The lyrics are better, actually. I think they're better lyrics on this track. Just a really good song. Amazing song. But as I say, it's all about the bass on this one. So we're moving on to side 2, and it opens up with a track called The Man. Okay. The funny thing is with this song, I'm not a fan. I don't think many people are. But it starts off so good. It starts off so strong. Get this really cool guitar. Sounds so good. And Paul just comes in and goes, there's a man who plays the game of life so well. And, you know, he's singing it. And it's like, oh my God, you know, this you know, Paul sounds really catchy. It kind of sounds like a Paul song. But then Jackson very quickly takes over. And the song kind of goes from, like, looking like it's going to be good to, like, oh no, this one's going to be pretty bad. And it really just turned into a bit of a boring track. I hate to say it because it starts so strong. I really do feel I'm gonna back myself up here because I know there's a lot of haters of this song, but I feel it starts really strong, but then it just sinks so quickly, and the lyrics are just god awful, really. Jackson just takes over on the vocals, so for me that's not bad. That's bad. That is very bad. And it's not like Say where they kind of get an equal balance. It's like Jackson gets about this much vocal performance and Paul's like down here, so it's like not a great song. Very, very, very poor choice of an opener to side 2. It really starts side 2 off on a bit of a bad note. But anyway, it picks up with a track called Sweetest Little Show, and I actually quite enjoy this one as well. Great acoustic. Again, great bass guitar work in this track. The vocals are really good, and I actually quite enjoy the lyrics on this one. You know, they're singing like, if they treat you like a lover, they're going to get the sweetest little show in town, but if they treat you like a clown, it's going to be crap, blah blah blah. You know, the lyrics are a little silly again, but for this album it's pretty good lyrics from Paul. Really like it. Then we get the track Average Person, and I think this is when the lyrics just, Paul was just like, oh look, I'm going to write the most ridiculous song ever. What can I write in here? Let's write about a lion. I like the song. I don't mind it really because it's very catchy. The lyrics are incredibly silly and stupid, but they're also fun and funny. I mean, that's one of the lines which I always remember from this song. You know, I was talking to a former engine driver, and he was telling me about how he used to keep his bonnet spick and span as clean as new, or something like that. He goes, but he told me his life ambition was to work with lions in a zoo. Just how we get there in the song, I don't know. The lyrics are incredibly silly, but as I say, that's why I like them, because they're fun. For Paul McCartney, though, lyrics like that, it is like, has Paul lost his writing skill? Has he? Of course he didn't, because, you know, we've had so many brilliant albums since this one. But at this time, I can imagine what people were thinking when they probably heard this song. Has Paul got writer's block or something? You know, what the hell's happening here? You know. Anyway, lyrics are very silly, very out there, but it's not a bad song really. It's pretty damn good. And then we get an instrumental, which is kind of rare for McCartney, you know. You get a lot of, you know, musicians doing instrumentals, you know, Genesis, Eric Clapton, even ELO done a few. Paul McCartney doesn't really do instrumentals very much because, you know, he's just got such a good voice, and, you know, before this album, he had pretty much perfect writing on every album. So it's like, you know, I don't really want an instrumental from McCartney. But anyway, he tries to do an instrumental here, and I have to say, you can do good instrumentals. I like it. It sounds really good guitar work. I love it when it slows down in the middle, just sounds really great. Very 80s sounding. I would have liked to have seen him do maybe some more instrumentals outside the 80s. And I know he done a few in the 70s and a few in later years, but some more would be nice, to be honest, because, you know, the 80s had its own sound, it had its own feel. And I feel that instrumentals in the 80s, you know, especially like when the 80s sound was popular, which was from about 82, 81 through to about 86, I feel that instrumentals which were coming out then weren't that great. They were all just kind of cheesy dance-along numbers. So instrumentals outside of them times I always find are the best. So this is a good instrumental from McCartney, so I think he should definitely have picked up and done some more. Unfortunately, he didn't do too many instrumentals in his career, but hey ho, his career's not over yet, so there's an instrumental in his new album new album, on his next album, and I'd be very interested to hear what that sounds like. And then we get what is the other hated track on the album, Tug of Peace, and I did used to really enjoy this song actually, I'll admit, when I first heard this album I was like, I don't get the hate around this song, it's pretty good. Listened to it a few times now, because I've had this album, I've had this about 2-3 years now maybe. Yeah, it's not a great song. You know what these musicians are like with their peace and love, look at Ringo. Give it a break, Ringo. Anyway, but, John was doing it, and, John done all his protesting and stuff, and, whatever. Now I think, after looking back at Tug of War, maybe Paul's like, maybe I can do, like, some sort of peace thing here. It's like, he kind of just rewrote Tug of War with a few, changed war to peace. The lyrics are kind of silly, and he really rushes them down the mic at times. It's okay. I don't want to say it's a bad song, but it's not good. And then we go on to the last track. Phew, we made it. And after side 2 pretty much being a bit down, it closes with what is my favourite song on the album, Through Our Love. Through Our Love is one of McCartney's best ballads in my opinion, and I know people are going to be like, oh my god, how can you say that? Well, I'm saying it. It is a beautiful song. I love how it starts with the violin, and then Paul's vocals just kick in. They're so sweet and calm here, his vocals. It's unreal, really. It's just really hard to knock that song. It is probably in my top 10 songs from Paul McCartney in the 80s. I love it. It's better than the hits on the album. It's better than half the tracks on Tug of War even, I'd say. I just love the song to death. Amazing track. So anyway, now I'm going to show you my copy of the vinyl record, then I'll give it a marking out of 10 in a couple minutes. So anyway, here it is. Nothing too interesting about this album. I'm not a big fan of the album cover. Paul kind of looks a bit funny on the back, kind of looking a bit silly, trying to match the lyrics, I guess. Hey ho, he's Paul McCartney. He's allowed to do what he wants. Then of course we've got the gatefold here. So we can see all the musicians who worked on the album. So there's some of like the just backing musicians there. And then here's the, more famous ones which everyone's going to know. So of course we got Mr. Paul McCartney up there. Then we got Linda. Then we got Silly Ringo. And we got Jackson. So yeah, kind of like the photos on here. They kind of look just genuine, I guess. And then of course it does come with an inner sleeve with all the lyrics on. And then mine's nice because it's got like a nice inner sleeve in there to protect the record. And I love the labels on this record. Here's mine. So, the parlophone there looks really cool. And some people don't like this label design, but I do, because I think they could have gone with something really simple and standard. They actually put a design on it, so I really like the label. It's got a picture of the chair from the album cover. So yeah, I think it is a really, really good design on the whole album. The cover's a bit weak, yeah, but I like the back cover. Nice picture of Paul. I've given you an inner sleeve. The record label design is great. It's a gatefold. I think this album overall is pretty much seriously underrated. I mean, it's not one of Paul's best. It's not one of the best albums ever. But I think because Paul McCartney has done so many other good albums, people just really overlook this one. And, for other artists, this would be a genuinely good album. For an artist, I don't want to start mentioning artists because then people will be like, oh, how can you compare McCartney to them, blah, blah, blah. But, for a lot of other artists who were around in the 80s, this would probably be one of their best albums. It is a really good album, I think. Favourite tracks on the album, again, okay, I'll put little stars by my favourite tracks. So, Pipes Peace, great. Keep Undercover, So Bad, Sweetest Little Show, and Through Our Love. They are my favourite tracks on the album. So if I was to recommend this album to anyone, go and check out a few songs. They're the songs which I'd recommend you go check out. Very 80s feel, so if you're not into the 80s, forget it, this ain't for you. But anyway, giving this album a marking out of 10, I'm going to give it a 7.5. So it's 7.5 for Paul McCartney's Pipes Peace. Great album, really enjoy it. Underrated, as I say. Or, well, maybe not underrated, overlooked, we'll say. But hey, the reissues of these, the archive series, this is next in line with Tug of War. So, you know, I think this is probably going to be like McCartney 2, because McCartney 2 was pretty well hated, or not hated, but disliked, before the archive come along. And the archive come along, McCartney 2 is now one of Paul's best, or most well-loved albums. So I have a feeling this one here will become a lot more loved over the next year or two. So, anyway, there's my review of it. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like the video, please subscribe, and please leave a message. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.